Hello! You're listening to Talking Utter Slot, the podcast about having fun with toy cars. I'm Scott.
And I think somewhere back in the mists of time, I used to be Nick.
No, you are Nick. And this is
Oh,
this.
okay.
You are definitely Nick. You might be slightly damp, Nick, but we'll come on to that later. And this is the Sitootery edition. And for those of you not of a Gaelic persuasion, Sitootery is a word for room in which you can sit out without being outside, or a conservatory or whatever. Anyway, that's why we're both sitting behind glass looking out at the English summer, which is blowing, blowing wind and rain across the country. But we'll come on to that. Anyway, we haven't done one with you, Nick, for ages because you've been doing stuff with people because you've got a new job. So
I
I
have.
think it's only right that the baying hordes, that's the wrong expression, is it? The interested people, the fans, want to know what you've been up to. So what have you been up to?
Literally ones of people. Yes, I now work for Honda in motorcycles, in
Mm-hmm.
fact. So I do the British Superbike Championship and road racing, so the TT and the Northwest 200. So that's one in Northern Ireland, the Northwest, and one on the Isle of Man, TT.
Which for car nuts like me, that's a bit like starting with Daytona and Le Mans at the same sort of almost in subsequent weekends, isn't it?
Yeah, although it's like at the end of it, somebody was like, "What was it like your first TT?" I was like, "It's like a big rally. It's just a rally that goes on for 2 weeks."
Hmm.
So there's lots of northern people under canvas for a start.
Right.
Then you send them off, and then hopefully you see them back again.
How long does a
So
lap take of the island?
yeah, a lap takes it's 37.7 miles. They do it at an average. The really quick boys this year were doing it at an average of 135 miles an hour, which works out at about 17 minutes a lap.
And this again for folk who don't, I mean, YouTube is your friend. Look up Isle of Man TT, but at least this is genuine public roads through villages and towns with walls and curbs and all that sort of thing, isn't it?
All the palaver that goes on, yeah. Plenty of people on crutches still, but yeah, it's that sort of event. Um,
Yeah, when you mentioned Chris, when I was working at BMW before, and I looked after motorcycle PR as well, which was interesting because I didn't ride a bike. And the sort of before going to my first motorcycle show, there's a fairly famous journalist at the time called LGK Set Right said, "Ah, yes, it's a place with people on crutches looking to buy their next accident." And he was, which is very true. Um, so you were there for 2 weeks, and you were in Northern Ireland for what's it for? How long was that for? A week practically.
that was a week, yeah.
And and now it sort of settles into visiting more conventional kind of race meetings at circuits sort of thing.
Exactly. Or as Dean Harrison, who's our road racing front runner, who also competes in the little super sport class in the British Superbikes, is like, oh yeah, we're doing little tracks now. Which thinking of the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit as a little track,
A little track.
yeah, it's quite a novel concept. But that's how they think. And Dean is the ultimate at that. We went to the first race back after the TT was Snetterton, and he kept going straight on in the corners. And we were like, "What's going on? Is he mad?" And he came in. We were like, "Dean, you all right?" He said, "Yeah, I just haven't got any points of reference because I've got no trees, I've got no walls. I don't know what I'm doing."
How would you politely and non-libelously describe the difference between motorcycle racers and car racers then?
They walk around fairly lopsided, most of them.
And that's not just because of the tightness of the leather gussets, is it?
No, it's
Again,
not. It's sort of badges of honour that come from taking part in this sport. No, I mean generally, there's not much difference. The quick guys and the serious professionals are exactly the same
Hmm.
as you would expect to find in four wheels. They're motivated, they're driven. If things aren't right, they have huge hissy fits, and that's that's what makes them or what pushes them and other people on. But yeah, no, generally they have more tattoos than most racing drivers.
Well, I don't know. Lewis Hamilton seems fairly covered these days, doesn't
Yeah,
he?
yeah,
So,
Lewis would probably fit in quite well in the paddock.
yeah. Um, Now the obvious crossover, not to move on from but is the fact that Valentino Rossi is now racing cars.
Yes.
Is he just like dead to them now, or are they quite interested in what he's up to?
No, it's funny. And funnily enough, we've also got another crossover in that Alan Hyde, the British touring car commentator, who
Uh-huh.
he and I started about the same year, and we were both in BTCC. He is now commentating at the tracks for BSB, British Superbikes.
Ah, okay.
And he was recalling conversations that he had with John Surtees, who I work with quite a lot as well. And he said, do you think anyone will ever do what you did and be a world champion on two wheels and four ever again? And he said, possibly the only one who could have done it was Rossi.
Hmm.
But now things are getting so specialized that highly unlikely.
Yeah, I mean Rossi could. I mean he's. I mean obviously he's now in effectively a much more of a team sport, so he's got to have two other drivers, etc., in the car. But he's not. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that he could win certainly GT3 WEC, couldn't he? That'd be interesting. Obviously you're now. So this is you back to working weekends and all that sort of thing again. So
Yes.
this is interfering with your slotting, I think, isn't it? Because
It
of the.
certainly is because the office is actually in Buckingham, which is 50, 60 miles away, and you have to get round the M25 to find it, or go cross country, which takes quite a while.
No, don't do that. No.
Well, I do actually. I go, yeah, up to Ascot and then up to High Wycombe, avoiding the M25 at all costs. And so that's two and a bit hours to get to the office. So I stay up there during the week. So
Hmm.
Wednesday nights at the club have become a rarity. And then we're racing seemingly every weekend that has a slot round.
Okay, so have you what? So what have you been? I know the answer to this question. This is one of those sort of showbiz freaks. So what have you been doing? What have you been doing slot wise then?
Well, I've been to the club a few times. I think I've been more this year than last so far, which is
Not saying much really, but yes.
well. Last year I was a postman and I couldn't afford to go. This year I'm doing a proper job. I'm rebuilding the finances, and I can't get the timing right. So yeah, I've been doing that,
Hmm?
and yeah, it's going okay. I think I finished second first time out, first the second time out, and it's usually I'm in the top three, but it's really getting competitive now.
Hmm.
Lawrence denies any tuning and testing time on the track, which is in his place of work. And we all sit there going, hmm. Um, and no, I mean, the quick guys at the club were still the quick guys at the club. And Franco is a relative newcomer, but he's dedicated to it. He's got an epic collection of cars, and he's having fun sort of getting himself up on the pace. So, yeah, everyone's pretty quick. There's no easy wins, not in this game. It's a
No.
game of two halves, Saint.
Well, I haven't. I think you've probably been more than I have this year. Actually, I think I've only been once, to be fair, or maybe twice. I can't remember. Largely laziness because it gets on a Wednesday evening, and it gets to about sort of 6:30, where I think I should actually be leaving, and I go, oh, I can't really be bothered driving for an hour, and all that. And I think, no, I'll just go out to the garage and play with my own slot car set. So fairly antisocial, but a lot easier. Um,
Yep.
but we'll come on to what I've been doing in the garage later. But again, I'm leading you here. You built something for this week's races, didn't you? Or
Well, yeah, I've got a couple of cars to show and tell,
show and
Scott.
tell. Listeners, imagine we've got a nifty little tune which introduces the show and tell segment.
Um,
Insert that in your imagination
I'll show the
now.
pretty one first.
Yeah,
So
right.
here is a Ferrari 750 Monza, which is painted up as the car that Mike Hawthorne won the 1955 Goodwood 9 Hours in, which is a car. I watched the newsreel footage of that race, and it just seemed really, really cool. because obviously they were going into the night and it finished at stupid o'clock.
Hmm.
And all the great sports cars of the mid-50s were there. Not many works teams, I don't think. Like Duncan Hamilton had a D-Type, which was obviously a factory car, and he had a couple of mechanics, but it was very much his own entry and things like that. Interesting that Hawthorne had been driving for Jaguar in '55. He would drive for them again in '56, but he was quite allowed to turn up to a big British meeting in a works Ferrari at the end of the season.
Different days, different days. Yeah, contracts were different things, weren't they?
So I think it's a repop of the MMK. I think made the 750 Monza
Right.
20 odd years ago. Your friend of mine, John Warren, down in New Zealand, does, and it's incredibly light and thin resin that he's used on this. So it's on a PCS chassis. It's got a standard Mabuchi motor. I've stuck a Ninko guide on it in the hope that it falls out of the slot less. It's on Scalextric wheels from the Ferrari Sharknose. So, they're
Nice. Yeah, yeah.
and the driver figure is from George Turner, because he's the only one that's made a Mike Hawthorne specific figure with the windscreen on his helmet rather than goggles.
Wow, is that? I don't know. Can the camera pick that up? I probably let's see if we can get it close enough to pick that up. I'm looking down the screen. Oh yeah, it just is a bit. Yeah, fantastic. So that's very nice. Now it looks lovely. So well done.
Yeah.
You do build a nice model. How did it go?
Well, I said, because obviously in the class, the thing to have at the moment is this is our TT class, which is obviously not the two-wheel version. It's the 1950s to 60s Goodwood race.
Yeah.
So the car to have is the Reprotec Cobra.
Yeah.
For some reason, that's much quicker than the Scalextric, and we don't allow Ninkos because we have a Ninko Classic class. So,
Yes, yes. The classification rules for the Farnborough Park Club are, if you printed them, I think it would be a telephone directory. I think, but anyway, yes. So the intricacies of what isn't allowed, but nevertheless, anyway. So compared to a Reprotec Cobra,
so I said that if I got 4 points, which is the minimum we can get, I'd be happy, and I actually ended up getting 5. So I got a third place and 3/4. It's very, very quick in a straight line because it only weighs 67 grams, and that's with as much tungsten putty in the bottom of the PCS chassis as I could fit. But it's still top heavy, even with a very light body. It's very narrow as well, with the little sharp nose axles from Scalextric. So it's perfectly to scale, which is probably not in its favour. It's demon quick in a straight line, leaves everything standing, and then you have to sort of get on the brakes. Or don't forget, we don't have brakes at Farnborough Park.
I know. Let's make it more difficult. Yeah.
yeah. So, but I will tell you that it's so narrow that the when it rolls, it sort of doesn't stop. It's really, really quick. It sounds quite exciting. But
does that mean you've scratched it already?
No, it's not scratched. It was well lacquered.
Okay.
But I think, I don't know. I mean, I might chuck a bit more weight in it and give it another run. But ultimately, it's going to be a really good running mate for my Scalextric Jaguar D-Type. They're about the same pace. And if you push them too quick, so basically, they are pretty good representations
of the real thing, yeah.
1950s drum braked, although the D-Type wasn't obviously, but the Ferrari was a drum braked sports car. So yeah, take that.
What you need to push for is that there are points for aesthetics as well. You see, so you get half the points to be scored are for how good does the car look.
Look at those exhausts, isn't it?
Yeah, it's gorgeous. So that's what I think. That's next year's AGM for the rules into an aesthetic, just a whole new field of debate.
And yeah, quite. And then
I can just imagine the argument. My car's better looking than your car. Yeah. Anyway.
Oh God, the AGM are gone for 6 months. The other class that we've got, well, both of these classes I actually instigated when I worked at Goodwood, but the classic saloons for
Uh-huh.
which I am now running the Rover. I've always run the Scale Electric RS 500
Hmm.
since the class began, but everyone told me that this car is a rocket ship, and I actually had a bit of a hand in how the thing looks.
Hmm.
So I thought, well, I'll use one of my Scale Electric Rovers. So I've stuck it on slotted tires, which worked very well on something I used a couple of weeks ago before we changed the classes. It's not yet. Remarkably, using my standard setup of a dab of weight behind the guide and stick some slotted tires on it. And normally, you can get away with murder. But this one is not. It's hippity hoppity and chattery, and it's quick, but it falls over a lot, which is strange because the Sierra doesn't.
Ah,
Uh,
yeah, I would say, yeah, I'm surprised there's a difference because I mean they're both quite narrow, but at least the Rover's a bit longer, isn't it? So,
yeah,
yeah. Well, that's interesting. So the Sierra still rules the roost, does it, or do you think it's just you need to get used to it?
it might be a bit of that. I think I've got too much grip on these tires because these are off my Slotted Group C.
Hmm.
That's the tires front and rear, which I use on that. So yeah, could be that. No, it's not the Sierra that's king of the hill at the minute. I can't remember what is. I was too far back to see who was winning.
Don't care who won. Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
it's interesting that you mentioned slotted Group C tires because I've just bought a lot of those. Because as is my wont, every now and again I will have one of my either a big rally to myself or a big endurance race to myself. So it was sort of niggling in the back of my mind. And then after real Le Mans and before classic Le Mans, which has just happened as we're recording this. Anyway, I dug out my slotted Group C cars. Or my Group C cars in general. I mean, the bulk of them are slotted, but there's a few Fly, a couple of SCX. What else is there? Old Skeletric, obviously, and I've even got some of those hand-built Milan Tomasek, was it his name?
Yeah, yeah.
MTR, um, which are
Beautiful things.
very exotic, and yeah, getting them to run with the foam tires, of which don't offer up. They're now 20 years old, so they do need. But the magic suntan lotion, sunblock, factor 50, works wonders. Just rub it into the tires and leave it for a little while, and rejuvenation happens.
Wow.
Anyway, I've diverted. So yeah, having dug the slot, it's now I thought it's only been a couple of years since I ran these cars. Turns out it was 4 years ago.
Wow.
Tires on a shelf don't necessarily live for very long after you've run them. So Pendle got the benefit of a bulk order for slotted Group C tires. So I set all the cars up. I've extended the track a little bit. A little bit. I mean, there's not much room if you remember my layout, but I've sort of, where I have a half straight here, a little quarter straight there, and just pushed things a little bit more. So the track's changed a little. And anyway, I got all this stuff out, and so it amounted to 45 cars in the end, um, which I was then blasting around, and tyres and everything. And I know they are. Some cars have got really grippy tyres, are doing really well. Some cars were really struggling to the point where quick car out the box on good tyres is 5.5 seconds.
Oh,
Perfectly good car just on old tyres, 7.5, 8 seconds. So that's the difference a set of tyres can make, which is a parameter, which is fine, and you put the new tyres on the worst cars, and so it goes. But I mean, I don't spend any time tuning them, putting, putting weight in them. I mean, my friend David, as you know, he can spend entire weeks getting cars to run within a hundredth of each other, which is great. But I don't do that. But I measure the MTR cars. One of them is the Gurney Eagle, the Toyota IMSA car, the sort of white
right.
big arm. So out of its box, it was running fine, and it was doing. It was one of the slowest cars. It was down like high sevens. Did the old magic amber solaire on the It isn't actually Amber Solaire. I can't remember what the brand of. I don't think the brand matters, as I should say. I'm honestly not sure the factor matters, but I always go for factor 50. Anyway, suntan lotion massaged into its aged, crinkly tyres and left for an hour. And when I came to do qualifying, which is fastest out of 5 laps, it was on pole, so it did a 5 and a bit second lap, which was just amazing. So, but a day later, when I went out to start doing sort of timed endurance runs, it was down into the 6.2s, 6.3s. So just the tires drying out, you could almost literally plot them drying if you were that bored, and I'm not. But I haven't finished. So the thing is, I run. So it's 240 seconds. 4 minutes to everybody else, but you've got to get the 24 in there somehow, haven't you? So 240 seconds. How many laps can it do for 45 cars? So I'll let you do the maths about how long it's going to take me to run all of these cars and do it. So I haven't actually got all the way through it yet. Excuse me. But
it's a good week.
It's a good week. The other interesting, so it's a bit, but sad Slaughter in his shed. I'm having a lot of fun. The other cars, which I decided to race loosely for the first time, are the Le Mans miniatures. I've got a Le Mans miniatures Rondeau, which is just a thing of astonishing beauty. Because the Rondeau was an early Group C car, effectively, it had very big windows, very big glass. And the cockpit is fully detailed, the driver, so you just look in this thing, it's just beautiful. But resin and very fragile. And I've got one of the Kramer. Remember, in 1980, Kramer brothers decided to build a new 917. Not that Porsche were very happy about it. I think effectively to Group C rules. So it was they had all the spare parts, so they built a new 917. So I've got a Le Mans miniatures of that, which, given that these are made of resin, it's quite a heavy. Well, they're both quite heavy. And normally I just give them, they do parade laps. That's all they do. Anyway, I've entered those, and they're not disgraceful. They're not last. They're not the slowest cars. So, but I'm being very careful. After 4 minutes of driving them quite quickly, because the last thing you want to do is hear this thing sort of grinding on its roof going down the street.
I've got one Le Mans miniatures, which is the Dower 962. The GT car, which was also a Group C car, and I've not put it on the track yet. Although I did read a review from one of the oldie websites like Home Racing World or something, where they were like, actually, it's as usable as a Slotted, because obviously it's a fairly robust design. You got the Batmobile wing on the back rather than any spindly ones. So
and it's low and wide, so it should be fairly, even though it's probably quite heavy, it'll be fairly stable, I would think.
Yes, exactly. But it's a curio rather than anything else, and it's just number 60 of my 956s and 962s.
Well, I was given, very luckily by me, the Le Mans winning Renault. I can never remember what the code number is. The 78 car, the yellow with the long tail and all that sort of thing. And that was a Le Mans miniatures, and it kind of does go, but it's it's not even. So I'd always had this impression that these things were really sort of decorative, but not actually runners. But these more recent ones, which I hasten to add, I picked up as absolute bargains. I think the Rondo I got for, they're usually £100 Le Mans miniatures, aren't they? So I think I got it for 30, 35. Because the wing mirror was missing. It wasn't missing, it was in the box, it just needed glued back on. So, result!
Nice.
So yeah, but they're definitely nice, but they're so, the detail and the finish on them just makes the mass-produced cars, even the sort of sideways stuff, is not as pretty as this, but lovely. Anyway, I'm having a lot of fun. Lots of 956s and 962s and Lancias and all that sort of thing. And of course, Le Mans Classic was on at the weekend, and they had a Group C race. So it was like, in fact, the whole of Le Mans Classic is basically as if, coming at it from a Slaughter's point of view, is as if somebody was a slot car fan and made real full-size versions of all of the slot cars, and then went and raced them. Because the grids are they've got something like 80 cars per race. So trying to cover it on television is impossible. But the racing, some of the races are. I mean, there was the GT40s were really at it up until the final, to the line, but obviously most of the cars are effectively poodling round. But it's lovely to see, and it really is like your slot car collection being brought to life. So it was quite good. But it has interrupted my own little Le Mans, which I need to go and do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Show and tell. I'm just going to check the clock. See how we're doing for time. Very unprofessional. We're fine. We're fine. Dorset Horde, regular listeners, as people remember. So way back last April, May, we were invited to go and buy up some old shop stock, effectively, at very advantageous prices. And I went mad. I went 3 times and filled boxes and boxes of them. But one of the cars I bought, and I'll insert an image of it, was a Fly Porsche. But something had grown. Your missus is about doing things.
She's feeding the rabbit.
Okay. So this Fly Porsche, but something had grown.
Yes, that's what we call it.
I'm going to persevere with this story, and not make any comment I'll later regret. Yeah. Anyway, it obviously got some bit of dampness in it because it had like a sort of reddish fungus which was growing all along the base and up round the tyres, and clearly it looked like it had been in some sci-fi special effect. But it was a £5, so I thought, fine, I like the body, I'll sort it out. Anyway, I hadn't done anything with it for a while. Spent hours trying to clean this stuff off with tweezers, picking it out, and cleaned it up. And I thought, this will never run because it's been wet and damp. But, dear listener, I got it. And if I can gently reveal, this is what it now looks like. So if you look underneath, there's a little bit of rust. But there's certainly not, I mean, this was all covered in the tyres. And even the fact, I thought all the tyres would be so dry. But no, they work.
The gunge protected them.
Whatever it was, is very interesting. So I'm very chuffed with my restoration, and I've got some pictures and stuff of it. But this isn't just any Fly car. This is one of the Fly cars which had a speaker inside it, and quite a lot of wiring, and also, and somewhat curiously, a little silver envelope, which was quite puffy. And I couldn't, and it was interfering. I had to actually pierce the little silver envelope, and that was a tense moment because I wondered what was going to ooze out. Anyway, nothing oozed out. I got it to, I think it's where the speaker or something. Anyway, I don't know the electrically, but it makes a noise. Now, if I can try to do this one-handed, as it were, if I bring the thing over to the microphone, and the intention is that when you drive the slot car, the speaker and its associated electronics replicates the real car driving. So here we go. Up through the box. Into third. You get the idea.
And then when you brake, it doesn't downshift.
It doesn't downshift. Oh, wait, come on. But
so if you've got a slot car track with a straight as long as the actual Mulsanne straight,
yes, you would get that effect. But if you've got a normal slot car track and even a club track, it's just going to be annoying. You'll never hear it. But if you hold it up, it does rev. And the child in me is delighted. Absolutely delighted. The weight of all of that gubbins is not inconsiderable, and so it's obviously has an impact on its lap time. But but it goes and it looks pretty, and it makes gear change noises. What more could an old man want? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I'm slightly afraid now that knowing his taste in things, you're going to inspire Jamie at our club to find one of those to enter in our modern GT3 class, because it makes a noise and because it's not the same as everything else. And so we're all going to have to sit there and listen to it going.
Well, the thing is,
going quiet.
If I apply throttle inputs as you would on the track,
yeah.
It just sounds like it's got a slipping clutch. Anyway, one more gear change because how great is this? I have to say, quite slow gear changes. I would hope. I would hope Rickard
Definitely
Leeds.
a Porsche.
I would hope Rickard Leeds
That
was
long throw for Le Mans.
Yeah, I think if I was a team manager, I'd be having a word with the driver, going, gear changes are a bit laboured there. Can we go a bit faster? Anyway,
How much are we paying you?
before we run out of time, and I know you've been busy, both jobs, etc. Have you seen anything in the great world of slot that's caught your eye?
Well, the thing that's most caught my eye is the Professionals Capri set, which is coming from Scale Electric, which I've been nudging Simon to make since they announced the Capri. Now, you will know if you have memories as long as elephants or whatever, that I do not approve of the shape of the Scale Electric Capri, and that is in fact why Simon asked me if I would help with the Rover. Or at least because he was bored of me whinging about how bad his Capri is. But it's a professional thing, and that's fairly central to my life, as are slot cars. So I imagine that a pair of those will be winging their way at some point.
So your standards on scale accuracy are overruled by your television associations. That's fair enough. Yeah, that's fine.
I think I've already built the cars out of resin kits from the tin tops associated with the 60s pre-ad.
Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at this. I think there's a twin test here, isn't there? Scalextric's one versus one of your pre-made ones.
Well, mine's going to fall over like the Ferrari. mine's made to go in a set of about 30 cars that I've made from the TV series to put on Carrera track because it's slippery. To go sideways and have car chases around the living room. That's the whole point.
Yes, that's kind of the whole point of slot cars, really, having fun,
Yeah,
definitely. All right, so those are quite. Because you didn't go to Gaydon because you were working, weren't you? That was so you missed. That was not to revisit that, but it was great that they had all the cars laid out and you could give them a good paw. I'm looking forward to the Steve Soper Bastos BMW twin set with an E30 and an E36.
Right.
So that's a bit like your Professionals, and that's got Soper, BMW, Bastos, blah blah blah. Yeah, that's all the ticks by now.
Needs a little figure of John Cleland in the corner of the box going, "The man's an animal."
Whinging. Don't get me going. No. That would be quite good. But otherwise, I've been trying to. What have I bought recently? That's terrible. I can't remember. Yeah, I was too excited about cleaning 10 years worth of mould off an old Porsche. It just goes to show you, kids, you don't have to buy new cars to have fun with slots. Anyway, so upcoming is Worthing's round of Slot Rally GB, which I haven't done any other rounds of them, but as Worthing is literally half an hour down the road, I probably will go and do that one. Don't hold me to it, guys, but I'm sure I will. I won't do very well because I like taking cars that are interesting to watch, so I won't win or anything. But that's not the point. But you're going to be at some exotic biking location, I think.
I don't think I am, but I've seen my family for 6 days so far this year.
And they're very happy about this, I guess. Don't I? So.
Do you know what? It's perked the old girl up a bit, getting me out from underfoot.
Have the kids actually went, who are you?
Not yet, no, but we're getting close to that point. But they're actually going to come because for the first time ever, they're taking an interest in what I do.
That's interesting, rallies, isn't
whatever.
it?
Yeah, exactly. But no, bikes. Yeah, can we come and have a look? Yeah, okay. They're going to come to Brands Hatch and have a nosy about because it's also the boy child's birthday. So yeah, but no, this weekend I shall probably be gardening because I haven't done that since April.
But an obvious question is: have you started a collection of slot bikes?
No, I haven't yet because they are universally terrible.
But I mean, I guess none of them are going to be current, are they? They're all sort
Well,
of historic now.
the bodywork on the road bikes is still based on the era of MotoGP that Scale Electric modelled. So, yeah, I could buy some Honda MotoGPs, although they seem to be in the collectible phase at the moment. So the cheapest ones aren't that cheap, which I then have to repaint and everything else, and I just don't have time. And also, I'm looking around at how many unused slot cars I've got, and I'm going,
Don't do that. Don't do that. That's a slippery slope. Never count them that way. Count how many you haven't got yet. That's the thing. If you started going, how many have I not used? Then it's a very slippy psychological slope. You'll start questioning why. And now, the whole point of this is to avoid questioning why. Anyway, before we dive into that dark water, we better wrap up and say goodbye. Thank you for listening. It's good to see you again. Hopefully, it won't be a year until the next one.
God, is it really?
Well, I don't know exactly. It must be knocking on for it. I think so. Well, no, it was last autumn, so maybe nine months. However, you haven't changed. You're still looking youthful. That's because you haven't got grey hair and a beard.
No, I've shaved it all off. Yeah.
No. All right. Anyway, it's good to see you, and thanks for listening, everybody. And we'll see you again soon. Bye.
Bye.